Before the screams start, hit that like button and subscribe. The 2-lane road stretched through the Mississippi pines like a black ribbon, slick with rain and regret. Isaiah and Elijah Carter hadn't been home in 10 years. Twin brothers, born 3 minutes apart, but hardened by entirely different sins. They hadn't spoken in nearly 5 months, until their father died. That call changed everything. Now they were in Elijah's rusting old pickup, crawling toward the one place they swore they'd never return to, Marrow Creek. "You sure this is a good idea?" Isaiah asked, voice low, thumb drumming against the dashboard. Elijah didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched, eyes fixed ahead, as if the trees themselves were listening. "Ain't about good or bad, just time." Isaiah scoffed. "Real poetic. Guess prison turns you into a philosopher." Elijah shot him a look. "Guess sleeping on couches turns you into an asshole." A beat of silence. The radio crackled. Gospel static. Despite their differences, the Carter brothers were bound by more than blood. They were tied by the ghosts of Marrow Creek, by secrets buried deeper than any grave. The town hadn't changed much. The welcome sign was still crooked. The gas station still had the same sun-faded Coke machine. And the people still stared like they'd seen a ghost, maybe two. They pulled up to the old family house on Magnolia Street. The porch sagged, windows dusted with grime. Their father's rusted rocking chair creaked in the wind, like it was waiting for someone who'd never come back. "I forgot how much this place stinks," Isaiah muttered, stepping out. "It's the swamp. Smells like rot. Fitting." The key Elijah pulled from his jacket barely turned in the lock. The door groaned like it hadn't been opened in years. Inside, the house felt wrong, cold despite the humidity. Dust clung to every surface like mold, and the air was thick with mildew and something else. Something older, a smell neither of them could name, but both remembered. "Elijah," Isaiah whispered, as if the house could hear. "You ever feel like something here? Never let go?" Elijah looked around, his eyes darker than they'd been before. "No, I feel like it's still holding on." That night, Isaiah dreamed of a field soaked in blood, of a tree full of dead birds, and of a girl with no face whispering his name from beneath the floorboards. When he woke up, Elijah was already outside, staring at the woods. "They buried something here," he said without looking back. Isaiah rubbed his face. "Who?" Elijah turned to him. "We did." The morning heat hit hard, sticky, slow, and miserable. The kind of heat that makes your thoughts heavy and your skin itch. Marrow Creek didn't believe in spring. It went straight from winter to hell. Elijah sat on the porch steps, a cigarette between his fingers, staring into the line of pines that bordered their backyard. The same trees he used to get lost in. The same trees where, when he was 13, he found the neighbor's dog, torn to shreds, and hung from a branch like a warning. He hadn't told Isaiah back then. Some things you just carry alone. The screen door creaked behind him. "You're up early," Isaiah said, holding 2 chipped mugs of instant coffee. "Did the smell of this place wake you up, or was it the nightmares again?" Elijah took the mug. "Both." They sat in silence for a while. Somewhere in the woods, a crow cried, but it wasn't the usual kind of call. This one was drawn out, wet, like it was gurgling. Isaiah shifted. "I checked the basement. There's water damage, mold. I think we should tear the damn place down." "No," Elijah said quickly. Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "Why not? It's a dump. Nothing worth saving here." Elijah looked at him, eyes shadowed. "There's something under it. You know that." Isaiah stood up, suddenly tense. Don't start that shit again. I'm not starting anything. I'm finishing it. Later that day, they went to town to pick up supplies. Lumber, bleach. The kind of things you buy when you're either fixing a house or covering something up. People stared at them like they were specters. Mrs. Adkins, the old lady who used to sneak them cookies through her fence, crossed herself when she saw them. Even Pastor Thorne gave them a wide berth as they passed the church. "Elijah Carter," the pastor said, adjusting his collar. "You boys here for good?" "Just settling our father's affairs," Elijah replied. The pastor gave a tight smile. "That house, it remembers, just like the rest of us." Isaiah stepped forward, always the more volatile twin. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Means you boys carry a stink," Thorne said. "The same one your father carried. You know what they say round here? Evil ain't born in Marrow Creek. It returns." That night, it started again. Isaiah was in the attic, going through old boxes. He found a photo of them as kids. Their mother was in it too, only she looked wrong. Her eyes were scratched out, and the corner of the picture was burnt. He didn't remember doing that. Suddenly, something scraped behind him. Slow, heavy, like nails dragging across old wood. He turned. Nothing, just the window, closed. The wind still. But in the reflection of the glass, he saw her. The woman with no face. Downstairs, Elijah was in the basement. He had pried open the rotten floorboards beneath the washing machine. He didn't know why, just needed to, like his hands were moving before his brain caught up. Below the boards, there was dirt. Then, cloth. He pulled. A burlap sack, damp and rotting. Something heavy inside. He opened it. A jawbone. Human. Clean. Still wearing a rosary like a necklace. And written in red ink across the inside of the sack, 1 of 7. The basement light flickered, then went out. From the darkness, something breathed. Elijah didn't scream. He'd been through too much for that. But as he stood in the dark, with the sack in one hand and the jawbone in the other, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. The raw, gut-splitting certainty that he was not alone. A cold wind slithered up his spine, and in the pitch black of the basement, he could hear something moving, not footsteps, not scurrying, but shifting, like flesh dragging across brick. The old bulb above him blinked back on for half a second, and in that flash he saw it. Something in the far corner, tall, thin, no eyes, just a mouth stretched wide in a smile too big for a human face. Then the light went out again. Elijah scrambled up the basement stairs, clutching the burlap sack, heart pounding like a warning bell. He didn't stop until he slammed the door behind him and shoved the old bolt into place. Isaiah came out of the kitchen, startled. "What the hell's going on?" "Don't go down there," Elijah said, breathless. Isaiah looked him over. The sweat, the dirt, the way his hands were trembling. "What did you find?" Elijah held out the sack. "This, and there's more, I think. 7 in total." Isaiah unwrapped the bone, the rosary still dangling like a grotesque charm. "Jesus." "No," Elijah said. "Something worse." That night, Isaiah couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the photograph from the attic, the one with their mother's face scratched out. He hadn't done that. Neither had Elijah. But someone did. And what scared him most wasn't the scratches. It was the burn mark in the corner. Because he remembered that shape. The symbol. A circle with a line through it. Their father had carved it into the back of his workshop table when they were kids, and told them never to touch it. He said it was a lock for things that don't belong. Isaiah got out of bed, quietly, carefully. He needed to see that table again. The workshop was a detached shed behind the house, choked in weeds and leaning like a drunk. He hadn't been inside in over a decade. The key was still hidden under the rusted lantern. Some habits die slow. Inside, the air was thick with sawdust and mildew. Cobwebs stretched across the rafters like veils. But the table was untouched. The symbol was still there, carved deep into the oak. Only now it was glowing, dim, pulsing like a heartbeat. Isaiah reached out to touch it, and the second his fingers grazed the surface, a sound ripped through the air like a scream underwater. His ears popped, his nose bled. He stumbled back, vision swimming. And then, he wasn't alone. A little girl stood in the corner, no more than 8. Dirty dress, skin like wax. She pointed at the ground beneath the table. Then she opened her mouth, and Isaiah heard his own voice echoing back at him, whispering secrets he never told anyone. Then she vanished. He dropped to his knees and pulled away a plank of the wooden floor. There, in the dirt, was a second burlap sack. This one contained a hand, still wearing a wedding ring. Tucked into the folds of the cloth was a photo. Their father, and a woman Isaiah had never seen before. On the back, written in a child's handwriting, 2 of 7. Back at the house, Elijah sat on the porch, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. The woods were quiet, too quiet. But then he heard it again. Not from the forest this time, from inside the house, whispering, soft, familiar. Voices that sounded like them, younger versions, arguing, crying, laughing, and then silence. And then a whisper from the hallway, "Elijah, you brought it back." By morning, Isaiah had locked the second sack inside the trunk of their father's old Cadillac and parked it deep in the overgrown driveway, half hoping it would sink into the earth and take the secrets with it. But hope was in short supply these days. The sun was rising, but it brought no warmth. The sky hung grey and low, like something heavy was pressing down on the town. Elijah poured himself a glass of water in the kitchen. The faucet coughed and sputtered before a thick, red-tinted stream poured out. He didn't scream, he just stared. Blood? No, paint. It didn't matter. Because when he looked down into the sink, the water had taken shape. A face, twisting, mouth open in a silent scream, his own face. He dropped the glass. It shattered, and just like that, the red vanished. Later that morning, the brothers sat on the back steps, silent. Elijah finally spoke. "We need to go to the church." Isaiah raised a brow. "Now's the time to get religious." "No," Elijah said, standing. "Now's the time to get answers." Marrow Creek First Baptist Church hadn't changed. Still looked like it was built in a day with wood nobody trusted. Inside, the air smelled like dust, lemon oil, and secrets. They found Pastor Thorne in the rectory, writing something in a thick leather journal. When he saw them, his face tightened. "You two keep digging. You'll end up like your father." Isaiah stepped forward. "And how was that?" Thorne stared. Screaming in a locked room, clawing at his own chest, whispering about voices in the walls. "He said it had followed you boys home." Elijah stepped forward. "You know about the sacks, don't you?" The pastor paled. "How many did your father find?" Elijah demanded. Thorne's lips parted, then hesitated. "3, sir." Isaiah's eyes widened. "3? We found 2. Thorne stood slowly and pulled the journal into his hands. "Your grandfather started it," he said. "During the war, he made a pact. Something about protecting the land, preserving the bloodline. But blood has a price." He opened the journal and showed them a page. It was that same symbol, the circle with the line through it. Beneath it was a list of names. 7. 5 were already crossed out, including their mothers, and beside her name, in faded red ink, "Given, accepted, returned." Isaiah stepped back like he'd been punched. "Our mother died in childbirth." "That's what you were told," Thorne said. "But the truth is messier. She died for you." The brothers left the church in silence, but not before the pastor handed Elijah something wrapped in linen, an old, rusted key. "This unlocks the storm cellar beneath the church. Your father left something there. Said only one of you would be brave or dumb enough to use it." That night, the whispering returned. This time, it came from inside the house. Isaiah followed it to the old nursery, long sealed off after their mother's death. The crib was still there, covered in dust and mildew. He stepped inside and the door slammed shut behind him. The lights died. From the corner, a lullaby began to play. Then, a woman's voice. "You were supposed to die with me." He turned, and there she was. Not as she looked in pictures, but twisted, eyes hollow, mouth gaping, blood trailing from her stomach like a slow river, floating inches above the ground. She reached out a hand. 3 of 7, Isaiah. That was me. Meanwhile, Elijah was outside, staring at the tree line, and that's when he saw them. 7 figures standing at the edge of the woods, unmoving, watching, waiting, and in the middle, a child, smiling, holding a rosary in one hand and a burning photo in the other. The next morning, the brothers didn't speak. Isaiah was pale, like he hadn't slept, or like something had been draining him from the inside out. Elijah didn't press. He had his own demons to face. They stood in front of Marrow Creek First Baptist Church just after sunrise, holding the rusted key Pastor Thorne had given them. The storm cellar was behind the chapel, hidden beneath a slab of cracked stone and tangled weeds. It looked less like a door and more like a forgotten tomb. "You sure about this?" Isaiah asked. "No," Elijah said. "But we've never been the lucky kind, have we?" With a groan and a pop, the key turned. The iron door creaked open, exhaling a stench of rot, rust, and something older. Something feral. They descended. The stairs led to a tunnel that sloped downward into the earth, far deeper than a church basement should go. The walls were lined with crumbling scripture pages, some in English, some in Latin, and some in a language that made their skin crawl just looking at it. After 20 steps, the air changed. It wasn't just cold, it was dead. At the bottom was a stone room, roughly circular, with 7 wooden chairs arranged around a fire pit that hadn't burned in decades. Each chair had a name carved into it. 5 of the names were familiar. Isaiah Carter, Elijah Carter, Deborah Carter, Jacob Carter, Ruth Carter. Only Isaiah and Elijah's names weren't crossed out. In the center of the pit sat a box, old, black, bound in rope and sealed with wax. Elijah reached for it, and the ropes fell away like they'd been waiting. Inside was a journal, their father's. The first page read, "The sinner's circle. 7 shall offer. 1 shall lead. The bloodline must return to the earth." Elijah flipped the pages. His father had written everything. Names, sacrifices, dates, rituals. The same photo of the little girl from Isaiah's vision was pasted inside, her eyes blacked out with ink. Beneath it, 4 of 7, the lost daughter, buried in the pine marsh. Elijah, Isaiah said quietly, why are we on that list? Elijah closed the book. Because we're the last ones left. That night, the brothers argued for hours. Isaiah wanted to leave. Burn the house down. Burn the church. Burn the whole damn town and run until the road turned to dust. But Elijah wanted to finish it. If we don't stop this, it'll keep going, he said. We leave, we take it with us. You want to die for this? Elijah didn't answer. Later, Isaiah drank until he passed out on the couch. Elijah went outside. He followed the whispering. The figures were back at the edge of the woods, but now they were closer, clearer. He could see their faces, or what was left of them. Their skin was torn, mouths sewn shut, eyes bulging with sorrow. Each one held a sack, 6 total. They stared at him. And then, from the shadows, a 7th figure emerged. Smaller, younger, the girl, the lost daughter. She smiled, rotted teeth and all, and placed the final sack at his feet. Inside was a mirror, and in the reflection, Elijah wasn't himself anymore. His face was older, scarred, hollow-eyed, and behind him stood the other 6, hands on his shoulders, whispering, the 7th must choose. Isaiah woke up with the taste of blood in his mouth, not his own. He stumbled into the bathroom, splashed water on his face, and stared at his reflection. But the man in the mirror wasn't moving right. His own face lagged behind his gestures, too slow, too distorted, like something was trying to wear his image like a suit. He punched the mirror. Glass cracked, blood spilled, and behind the shards, in the wall itself, he could see them again, the 7. Now they were closer, and one was missing. Outside, Elijah knelt in the woods, staring at the 7th sack the girl had left. The mirror inside showed him more than just a reflection now. It showed him memories, ones he hadn't lived, ones that weren't his, at least not in this lifetime. He saw a ritual in a candlelit room. 7 robed figures, 1 child, screaming, blood painted in a circle. The chanting, the fire. He saw a hand raised high, a blade gleaming, and he saw himself, or something in him, whispering, I accept the offering. He dropped the mirror and vomited. Back at the house, the air was thick, hot. The walls seemed to pulse. Isaiah sat on the porch, shotgun in hand, eyes bloodshot. We leave at dawn, he said flatly when Elijah returned. There won't be a dawn, Elijah replied. Not until we finish this. Isaiah stood. You're starting to sound like him. Elijah looked him dead in the eyes. And you're starting to forget what we are. Isaiah narrowed his eyes. What are we, Elijah? Elijah didn't blink. We're the key. That night, the house shifted. Wood groaned like old bones. The lights flickered, then burst. The air filled with whispers, not just around them, but inside them. Isaiah dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Elijah didn't flinch. He walked to the fireplace and pried away the bricks one by one. Behind them, wrapped in linen and sealed with tar, was the 7th sack. But it wasn't empty. Inside was a heart, still beating, still warm. Isaiah staggered over, eyes wide. Who the hell's is that? Elijah stared down at it. Mine. And then the heart opened, like a mouth, and whispered one word, choose. everything stopped. The house fell silent. The flames in the fireplace turned blue, and the floor beneath their feet began to crack, like something beneath the house was rising. They ran outside, but the woods weren't the same. The seven stood there, formed in a circle, the child in the center, a bonfire lit without fuel. They spoke in unison, not with mouths, but through the wind. One must stay, one must return, the line must end. Isaiah looked at Elijah. No. Yes, Elijah said, stepping forward. It's me. You don't get to decide that. I already did. Elijah turned to the girl, the lost daughter, and nodded. She stepped forward and placed the mirror in his hands one last time. This time, it showed peace. A field, a tree, light. Then it shattered, and Elijah fell to his knees. As the seven surrounded him, the bonfire roared, and the sky above Marrow Creek opened black and bleeding. Isaiah watched as his brother's body turned to ash, piece by piece, until only the rosary remained. The next morning, Isaiah woke up on the porch, alone. The house was clean, the land still. No whispering, no blood, no sacks, just silence. He picked up the rosary at his feet and carved a new name into the old table. Elijah Carter, 7th. And below that, it ends with me. A week passed. The town didn't mention the Carters. No one came by the house. No one asked questions. That was Marrow Creek's way. When something ugly happened, you buried it, deep, and prayed it didn't claw its way back up. Isaiah stayed. He rebuilt the porch, fixed the leak in the roof, did all the things a man does when he's pretending the past isn't coiled around his ankles. But every night, when the cicadas died down and the moon hung low and red like a warning, he heard them. Not the seven, not Elijah, but the woods, like they were breathing, watching, waiting. He tried to leave once, got as far as the highway before his car stalled. No signal, no passing cars. He walked back, didn't even fight it. Marrow Creek wasn't letting him go. Inside the house, things began to change. The walls stopped creaking. The mirror in the hallway no longer showed strange reflections. The old photograph of their mother, once scratched out, now showed her smiling, whole. Her eyes no longer burned out. It was like the house had been fed, satisfied for now. But Isaiah didn't feel peace. He felt like the eye of a hurricane. He returned to the church one last time. The storm cellar door had been sealed shut with iron chains. No key, no lock, just sealed, like it had never existed. Inside the chapel, Pastor Thorne was gone. A note sat on the pulpit. You gave what was asked. It may not return in your lifetime. But one day, the circle reopens. Until then, keep the land quiet. There was no signature. Just the symbol, a circle, a line. Isaiah walked out into the cemetery behind the church, found the old Carter headstones, his father, his mother, and now a fresh one, Elijah Carter, born 1994, died. He chose to stay. The grave was empty, just a marker. But Isaiah knelt anyway, held the rosary tight in his palm until it left an imprint in his skin. Thank you, he whispered. I'll carry it now. That night, Isaiah dreamed of the field again, the one Elijah saw in the mirror. Only this time, it wasn't empty. 7 trees now stood in a perfect circle. One had Elijah's name carved into it, and one was still bare, waiting. 10 years later, the house was still there. Isaiah never married, never left. People said he'd gone strange, talked to the woods, never aged. One night, a child disappeared in town, vanished without a trace. The townspeople gathered. They came to the house. They knocked. Isaiah opened the door, calm. And behind him, for a split second, someone swore they saw Elijah, standing in the shadow of the hallway, smiling with empty eyes. Isaiah simply said, "It's beginning again," and shut the door.